This podcast is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Make another smart choice with Auto Quote Explorer to compare rates from multiple car insurance companies all at once. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
Bumble knows it's hard to start conversations.
Hey, no, too basic. Hi there. Still no. What about, hello, handsome? Ugh, who knew you could give yourself the ick?
That's why Bumble is changing how you start conversations. You can now make the first move or not. With opening moves, you simply choose a question to be automatically sent to your matches. Then sit back and let your matches start the chat. Download Bumble and try it for yourself.
Welcome to Dear Prudence. I'm your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. Today, we'll be answering questions from a listener concerned their stepson is turning into an attention-seeking drama queen, a cancer patient whose husband is turning resentful after taking on primary caretaking duties, and a couple concerned with making new friends post-retirement. Here to help me out is Zak Rosen, co-host of Slate's parenting advice podcast, Care and Feeding. In addition to his work with Slate, Zak hosts the Best Advice Show podcast, where his guests offer tiny morsels of advice to make life slightly or sometimes profoundly better. In 2016, he and his wife created the podcast Pregnant Pause with Zak and Shira, where they chronicled their choice to become parents. Zak's work has been featured on NPR, CBC, and the BBC. Zak, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Kristen, it's so nice to be here. You know, I think of you as the busiest person in podcasting.
Coming from you, that's saying a lot with all of your projects you have going on, Zak. Well, we could not ask for a better guest today because we definitely have some parenting questions in the works to address. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you a question that we ask all of our guests. What is one piece of unsolicited advice that you would give to the world unprompted?
Treat yourself the way you treat your best friend.
Oh, I love that.
And I got that from my show. A listener called in to the Best Advice Show and gave me that advice. And that was like 4 years ago. And it stuck with me because I don't know if you're like me, Kristen, but do you treat yourself like crap sometimes?
Unfortunately, sometimes I do. Yeah.
Sometimes
I'm full of self-recrimination for things that I would never give my best friend a hard time for. Things like that,
exactly.
For example.
There you go. So that's it, right?
Yeah.
So if we were as kind and gentle and compassionate with ourselves as our best friends, I think we'd probably be better off.
Yeah. I think that's such great advice, especially because a lot of us think that we, for some reason or another, don't deserve whatever we're giving to other people. Why do we think that? I don't know, but a lot of us just feel like we don't deserve that same level of love, but we obviously do, right?
Of course. I was just listening to Liz Gilbert. She was doing an interview, and she was talking about how the Dalai Lama came to the States for the first time in the 70s, and was in a room of like thinkers and philosophers and writers, and they were asking him, like, how do you deal with self-hatred? How does one deal with self-hatred? And it took him, this is his first time in the West, and it took him like 15 minutes of going back and forth with his translator to understand just what self-hatred was. The concept was so foreign to him, and yet it's so embedded here in the West. But it made me think that like, oh, it's not certainly not universal, and it's not like necessarily fundamental, but it is deeply ingrained.
Yeah, every inch of the planet has flawed parents, so it can't just come down to that. But I do like that cultural reference there, and yeah, Dalai Lama, pretty smart guy. All right, you and I are going to dive into all the listener questions in just a moment, but first we need to take a short break.
After a night with drinks, it's tough to bounce back the next day. But with pre-alcohol probiotic by ZBiotics, there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking. Their probiotic was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. This is a proactive approach that wards off feeling miserable the next day instead of a reactive approach, like drinking electrolytes or eating greasy food. Also, ZBiotics is continuing to invent probiotics that will help with the everyday challenges of modern living. Go to zbiotics.com/dearprudence to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Dear Prudence at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/dearprudence and use the code DearPrudence at checkout for 15% off.
Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, FDA approved for over 20 years. So, talk to your specialist to see if Botox Cosmetic is right for you.
For full prescribing information, including boxed warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
Remember to ask for Botox Cosmetic by name. To see for yourself and learn more, visit BotoxCosmetic.com. That's BotoxCosmetic.com.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Dear Prudence, and I'm here today with Zak Rosen. Let's get started with our first letter titled Growing Pains.
My wife has an 11-year-old son, and I have a 17-year-old daughter. We've been together for 4 years and married for 2, and neither of our exes are in the picture. My wife started traveling for work at the start of the summer while I telecommute. We live in a safe neighborhood within spitting distance of the library, the rec center, and the pool. Everything should be ideal. Only my stepson, he's turned into an attention-seeking drama queen. He picks fights with the other kids and cries wolf if he loses. He's been banned from the rec center and the pool over various incidents, including throwing a ball at another kid's head, pushing another one into the pool, and even punching an older girl in the head. Every time there was an adult there to witness it, and every time, my stepson lied and claimed it happened to him and not the other way around. I've tried talking. I've tried taking away his video games, adding extra chores. Nothing makes a dent. It doesn't help that the minute his mother walks in the door, she folds like a cheap suit and indulges him. I hit my breaking point when I gave him $20 to go to the movies with the family of his best friend. He wound up lying, saying he had no money, so they bought him the ticket and snacks. The dad talked to me about it after. I went to my stepson. I asked, "Where's the money?" He looked me straight in the eyes and said he doesn't know. I made him empty his pockets, and then I took the 20 back. I told my wife something has to give. Maybe therapy. Maybe she needs to find another job and stay home. She thinks it's just growing pains, but I think he's going to be eaten alive in middle school if he picks on the wrong kid. Advice would be nice.
This is such a tough situation for the letter writer. I have a lot of thoughts on this, but Zak, I actually feel like you should open with your advice because you host a parenting podcast, after all, more than one parenting podcast. And I'd love to get your point of view before I share mine.
Okay. Totally challenging situation. And when you say maybe therapy, I say definitely therapy. And therapy for everyone. Universal therapy, I say.
Yes.
But especially for this kid who's so clearly struggling, which no one knows better than you, stepdad. But that's absolutely where to begin. And I hope, I don't know kind of where you came up or what your relationship to therapy is, but it is a good thing and there should not be a stigma attached to it. Therapy is not for broken people. Therapy is for everyone. Though we are all broken, so maybe that is true that therapy is for broken people, because we all need it. But the other thing is, I mean, you say that neither of our exes are in the picture. Okay, fine. That is a big deal for your stepson, and I don't know to what degree he or you all have processed that together, talked about it. But this is a big thing, and like you're in this blended family, and it has so much potential to be great, but there are some core things that you need to address and really deal with your stepson. So there's a lot more to say, but that's where I'm thinking first. But I'm really curious to hear what you have to say, Kristen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on this. I also think that, letter writer, you and your wife need to get on the same page here. It's clear that you have
100%.
wildly different worldviews about the situation here. It sounds like you don't even agree on whether or not your stepson is in pain right now. You don't agree on basic rules of whether or not he should be disciplined, whether or not it's your job as the stepdad to do any of the disciplining. And in a lot of blended families, the rule is that the step parent doesn't discipline. They stand by the primary
Right.
parent and
Hmm.
they give extra love and, they back up the house rules. But in a lot of blended families, the step parent does not discipline. But in your house, you have no choice because your wife is gone so often. And
Hmm.
that leaves you in a lurch because it automatically makes you the bad guy. And it sounds like it's a burden that's really getting to you because you're even calling your stepson names, calling him a drama queen.
Yeah.
And so you're clearly frustrated. And I just think you and your wife need to talk this through. And as Zach was saying, therapy would probably help a lot with that so that you can make decisions about what is the identity of your blended family, who has what
Hmm.
role, and maybe
Hmm.
even have the tough conversation about your wife needing to step back from this traveling job and maybe ask to have different duties on her plate, maybe transfer departments, maybe even look for a job at a different company because
Yep.
the son is clearly hurting, but also, if nothing else, maybe just the realization that your son is not just hurting internally, but hurting other people. And the fact that your son has not had to face any assault charges at this point may not last forever. If this continues in a few years, he may be facing assault charges because things that the world lets an 11-year-old get away with, they frequently don't let a 14, 15, or 16-year-old get away with. So just keep that
Totally.
in mind that this is for the safety of him and his heart and his mind, but it's also for the safety of other people in your community. So
Yeah.
please get on the same page with your spouse about this. Figure out what roles each of you play. Figure out what you can do to support your stepson. I know it's hard. I feel bad
Yeah.
for everybody in this situation.
Totally.
I really do.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with you that this is not just growing pains, like your partner says. This is something more, but that's okay. It doesn't.
Hmm.
It's not. It doesn't mean that there's no hope. And I think the other thing about therapy and you all getting on the same page, you mentioned that you've tried talking, you've tried taking away video games, adding extra chores. Like there isn't consistency
Hmm.
because you haven't found something that has worked yet. And
Yeah.
that's yet another thing that a therapist can help you with is establishing consequences and being consistent with them,
Hmm.
and kind of establishing them with compassion rather than we want to be restorative rather than just kind of punishing for punishment's sake. So
Hmm.
that's definitely another thing I would consider talking about with whomever you should bring into the fold to talk about this with.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing, letter writer, I just want to remind you of, I'm sure that you're aware of this, but maybe it's just not top of mind. Kids who are in blended families didn't ask to be in blended families. Kids who have a parent that's out of the picture, they didn't ask for that parent to be out of the picture. Unfortunately, kids have to frequently follow whatever their parents' romantic whims are. I'm not trying to be dismissive of your relationship with your wife, but it wasn't your stepkid's choice to be in this blended family. And it sounds like he has a lot that's, you know, being processed or maybe not being processed well. He has a lot of pain, a lot of frustration. So please, as we've said already several times, therapy for everybody in the picture. And we wish you the very best. This is a tough situation. It really is.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't want to like castigate or whatever. But calling your stepson an attention-seeking drama queen is, in the way you said it, it is somewhat pejorative. I know you are, fed up with this, and you're entitled to be. But like, remember that there's something really tender underneath this attention-seeking, and so job, your partner's job, and your kid's job is to really start exploring what is underneath there.
Yeah. Any other final notes, Zach, for this letter writer?
I think it's going to be okay once you seek help and you all
Yeah.
come at this with love. But you're going to be okay as long as you stay engaged and don't give up on your kid. It's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree also. So we're sending you all the love and support for your family, and we hope you
Yeah.
get all the help that you need because help is out there.
Yep, totally.
All right, so let's move on to our next question. It is titled, Not a Good Wife.
After I was diagnosed with stomach cancer, my husband has been doing the bulk of child rearing. Chemo wipes me out. So, in addition to taking care of me, he's been doing all the cooking, cleaning, and caring of our children. It started to take a toll on him to the point where he's been screaming at our young kids when they do normal kid things, like laughing too loudly or being too messy. I don't know what to do. We don't have family nearby, and all our friends are AWOL since my diagnosis. It's gotten to the point where my husband has started thinking about separating from me. He says he would never do it, but once I get better, I'm afraid he might divorce me. What can I do to help lessen his burden? I know he already resents me.
Oof. I am so sorry, letter writer, that you are going through this. Cancer is terrible. I lost my own mother to cancer. I've lost other loved ones to cancer. It's just the worst. And this additional marital stress is not helping matters. It's just taking something terrible and turning it into 1,000 times more terrible. I really feel for you. But at the same time, I have to say, I also feel for your husband and your kids. All of you have burdens you're carrying right now, including fear, including just getting through the everyday, including just getting food on the table, just logistical things beyond your health care and your diagnosis. And it's tough for everybody here. I'm so, so, so sorry.
Yeah, man, this is such a tough situation and made so much harder by not having family nearby. And where the frick are your friends? You say they went AWOL. This is so sad and awful. I'm so sorry. We are not meant to move through life as just a nuclear family with no one outside helping us. So it's completely understandable that everyone is struggling under the weight of this moment. So that's really normal. I think the thing that we have to think about is what can we do to get your husband some help. And I have no idea what your financial situation is, but there needs to be some time. The more time you can afford, the better, but some time regularly for your husband to get the heck out.
Yes.
Something that he can do that, whether that be going to see a movie, I don't know, going to the bar, going to the batting cage, going to therapy, going to the museum, doing something where he doesn't have to take care of someone else, where he can breathe and where he can experience some catharsis. That's like the first thing I would suggest. And you could get a babysitter. You can, maybe ask a neighbor, but like find someone who can watch your kids while you sleep, because you're wiped out from your chemo. Of course, you can't take this on yourself. And get your husband a date with himself ASAP.
Yes, absolutely. And for those who don't know, caregiver depression, caregiver burnout, these are real issues. These are issues that, everyone from the Mayo Clinic to the Cleveland Clinic to, name your esteemed medical institution. This is something that they recognize as a genuine issue, one where there are crisis hotlines and there are support groups available for people who are caretakers. So just a few resources to consider for your husband. The Caregivers Action Network, the Aging and Disability Resource Center in your state. Every state has one. Also, for your kids, there are subsidized childcare and after-school programs. Maybe the kids should be going to those kinds of places, at least for a few hours a week so your husband can get a break. And also, I want to say something about your friends here. It sucks. It sucks that your friends have gone AWOL. I do want to just not give them grace exactly, but maybe interpret a little bit what they're thinking. I
Mm,
know that in the case of some of my loved ones who've died of cancer, what happened was some people just don't know how to handle
that's right.
illness. Some people get
Mm-hmm.
really weird. Some people are like, well, what good am I here? So they just disappear. And it's not because
Yeah.
they're bad people, and it's not because they stopped loving you. Again, I'm not trying to give excuses. I'm just trying to interpret some of their thought
Yeah.
processes. And it sucks because now you feel, in addition to everything else you're going through, you feel like you're alone in this. But you're not alone. And as much as it sucks, it may be on you, letter writer, to reach out to those friends,
Mm-hmm.
to let them know, like, I love you. And part of what's helping me get through this is knowing that I still have you as a friend in my heart, even though we haven't been seeing each other a lot lately. I'm also hoping that maybe I can lean on you a little bit right now. One thing that would mean the world to me is, can you take, let's call your husband Dave, can you take Dave
Mm-hmm.
out for just a cup of coffee or take him to the batting cage? Can you and Dave try to meet up every few weeks to do something together? That would mean the world to me. That's not a huge burden. That's something fun that your friend can do that, you know, and when I say your friend, I mean a friend of your husband as well. I don't mean just like get one of your friends to hang out with him, but, get somebody who he knows already and ask for that favor. Maybe reach out to some other parents that you know and say, would you be willing to host a play date? And, it doesn't have to be all the time, but it would mean the world to me. It would help us out so much if just a couple hours this Saturday you could host a play date at your house and give my kids a chance to play with other kids, give my kids a chance to have some joy and not be in this house with this stress and this sickness. And your friends are still there. I know that it feels like they're not there,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe you can reach out to them. And a lot of people, that's all they want is an assignment because they don't know what to do
That's
with
right.
something that feels
That's
so
right.
amorphous
Mm-hmm.
and overwhelming like cancer. But sometimes just being given an assignment makes people so happy and so much more fulfilled in the situation rather than just being confused and scared. Uh, they feel like they can be of use to you. So don't be afraid of
Yeah,
asking them to help with an assignment here or there.
that's beautifully said. And it's vulnerable to ask for help. It's I think a lot of us have a really hard time doing it, right, Kristen? Like it's
Oh
not
yeah.
necessarily natural for some of us to do it, and I think it'll be liberating for you because I know you're feeling like you're such a burden right now, like everyone's taking care of you, but like it's really a beautiful thing to see what happens when you ask for help.
Yeah. Yeah. One other thing I would suggest doing is have some conversations with your husband about what you can do to offer some sort of emotional support to reinforce the idea that you're on the same team, that you appreciate all he's doing, and so on. And I'm not sure what that will be for the two of you. Maybe it will be every night before bed, you sit down and you just say to each other what you're grateful for in your relationship that day. But
Hmm.
maybe come up with some sort of ritual or come up with some sort of communication plan that you two can feel like you're in this together rather than he just feels like he's carrying all the burden. Because there are things you can do as a partner and wife emotionally, even if it is just talking with him and holding his hand every day.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah, you still have things you can do, even if you are completely sick and exhausted right now, but you are still a full human being with love to give, even if your body is not playing along all the time right now. And you can still give some of that to your husband and to your kids in different sorts of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much compassion for you. I can get short with my kids and they take a toll on me, and thank God my wife and I are totally healthy. So to be in your position is it's very normal to be going through what you're going through. Um yeah. And Kristen said all that beautiful stuff about asking your friends and community for help. I wonder also if you could ask someone from your family to come for like a weekend. Um,
Mm,
if they could just give you a weekend and then maybe a different cousin could give you another weekend, your husband could like maybe even get away for a night or two, and maybe you guys could go somewhere together.
yeah. Oh, that would be great if you could do that. Or even, even if the place you're just getting away to is a hotel room, like in the
Yeah.
next town over.
A little
It doesn't have to
staycation.
be
Yeah.
like a big trip. It can just be
Yeah.
the two of you have a night sitting together in a quiet hotel room order in some food, watch some TV, maybe take a bubble bath.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah, I want to do that right now.
Yeah. See ya.
All right, letter writer, we wish you the best. We know you can get through this. And now it's time to take another quick break. When we're back, we'll be reading more of your letters. Stay with us.
Streaming December 12th on Peacock. Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie are back.
That's hot. Loves it.
For a show-stopping reunion that will prove putting on an opera is anything but simple.
We're really good at this.
One thing's for sure, they won't be upstaged.
Good to have you back. Come on, we've got a show to do.
Paris and Nicole, The Encore, a 3-part reunion special, streaming December 12th, only on Peacock.
Hey, it's me, the Quenchies. I'm that late afternoon craving you just can't shake. Wait, what's that? Welch's Grape Aid? No! Made with real fruit and no added sugar, nothing answers the call of the Quenchies like Grape Aid. Got the Quenchies? Grab a Grape Aid in your juice aisle.
I'm Kristen Meinzer, your guest Prudie, and you're listening to Dear Prudence. Zak Rosen, you and I are about to tackle our last question of the day. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right. This letter is titled, Retired Couple.
We are a recently retired couple, about 70 years of age. We have been enjoying, but we do keep coming back to the need for more couple-type friends. Many of our older couple-type friends have either died or left the area. Now, when we meet a couple, one or the other will not resonate with one of us. We do have diverse political leanings, which are sometimes a barrier in some settings. Any ideas would be helpful. We do not belong to a church. We are trying pickleball, but we are comically bad at it.
Oh, letter writer. First and foremost, I just want to say this challenge of friendship is one for people of all ages. Right now, the Surgeon General, I think it was last year, the year before, put out a whole report on the loneliness epidemic. Friendships have suffered a lot during the pandemic. Friendships are something that a lot of us just struggle with after we no longer have pillar institutions that we go to every day, like school or a college dorm or a workplace, because a lot of us are working remotely now. It can be really hard to meet people without those pillars. And it can be really hard right now where a lot of our social skills maybe aren't up to snuff. Maybe they're not what they used to be. But there's this additional challenge that now that you're in your 70s, you're looking for other couples. And the fact is, at least 36% of people 65 and older are single. So, you're dealing with a numbers game, and the numbers just keep on getting, more single as people age, as partners die, as people get divorced. It's very typical. If you go into a senior living community, it's very common to see like 90% single females there for a reason, because women tend to outlive their partners. Gray divorce is a real phenomenon in America. And so finding other couple friends gets harder the older we get, if that's what the big goal is to find other couple friends. So that's just the reality of the landscape of the world right now, between the loneliness epidemic, between that and aging, the couple situation, and so on. So there's a lot you're up against now, but I think we have some suggestions that will help, hopefully.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, one of the things that I thought of when I read your letter is that it's such a gift to have friends who aren't your age. And I think there's such generative social potential in seeking out friends. In your case, who are older, but I was thinking who are much younger. And they're going to get a lot of value in hanging out with you two. Just as you will find so much new energy in hanging out with them. And I know it's not so easy just to go find a 40-year-old couple to hang out with, but there are ways to do this. And forget about pickleball. I am why does everyone think they need to play pickleball now? Everyone is, it's like this like universal truth that like pickleball is our national hobby now. Like, forget pickleball. You don't care about pickleball. Don't try to care about something that you don't care about. You mentioned that you and your wife have different, I'm getting that you two probably have different political leanings. That's
we don't know if it's wife.
Thank you.
We don't know if they're.
I'm getting that you and your partner might have different political leanings. You say you have diverse political leanings. The thing that I would suggest, I actually just heard this quote today. It's from an Allen Ginsberg poem. He said, "Notice what you notice, observe what's vivid, catch yourself thinking. Vividness is self-selecting." In other words, like, what do you care about? Like, what do you throughout your day, like what is like a highlight when you are going through your day? Are you noticing, oh my gosh, like there's the bird that I am obsessed with? Like, maybe you should join a bird watching community. Do you two like dancing? Mm-hmm. Sign up for tango classes. Like, are you especially passionate about like a certain political thing that's happening in your neighborhood or a social thing that's happening in your neighborhood? Like, start going to meetings, Black Club meetings, like something that you actually care about, not something that feels like, oh, I should be doing this, like pickleball. Like, what's something, someone said it to me on my show, I wish I remembered the guest, but they said, pay attention to what pisses you off and pay attention to what makes you cry. So like those things, like what are the things that like light you up and that you could see yourself spending time investing in? And you are going to find like-minded people there who aren't just 70 years old. You'll find 18-year-olds and 40-year-olds. Mm-hmm. And I think like there's community where you are, you know, passionate.
Absolutely. I love all your advice, Zach. And full disclosure, one of my podcasts I host, How to Be Fine, our current season is all about quandaries of friendship and the loneliness epidemic.
Oh,
and
so that's how you know
many
all this
of our
stuff.
experts.
I was wondering, like, how do you just?
How do I know all these stats?
How do you know this? That's great. That's cool.
Well,
it's so important.
Many of the experts we've brought on have actually echoed what you said, Zach, where it's like, follow the thing that you're most excited about. And a lot of them have also brought up intergenerational friendships. They are important for making a society be more empathetic, for making us better people, and for making us happier people. We tend to be happy when we don't just surround ourselves with people who are the exact same age as us, the exact same identity as us. And that identity also includes being not coupled.
Yeah.
You know, if you and your spouse hang out with two other friends and have a game night, those two other friends don't have to be married to each other. You know, if you want to have a foursome to play bridge with or canasta with, they don't have to be a couple. That's fine. Not everybody has to be in a couple. I'll speak for me and my husband. We frequently will go on trips with other friends where we are the couple and the other people aren't the couple. And that's fine. We still have fun. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't make it less fun for us to go on trips with, you know, these two other people who are not romantically involved. It's fine. We have a great time. Coupledom, I think, tends to be emphasized as the ultimate be all end all. But we don't need to have all of our friends be couples, and we don't need them all to be the same age as us.
Totally.
Also, I just want to suggest a couple of tools, because once you know, this is what I'm excited about, you may not know, well, now what do I do with that excitement? How do I find these groups to join and so on? So there are lots of tools out there. There are apps out there. One of my friends who in her 60s got divorced, she started using Meetup, and she met so many friends that way.
Oh, cool.
And she ended up meeting her now partner, who's the other half of her coupledom right now. So
was there like a theme to her Meetup?
Her Meetup group where she spends the most time is for lesbians over 55.
Love it.
Yep. And so she got a lot of joy out of that. But I have friends who are of all sexual orientations who've met friends and romantic partners through Meetup. There are all sorts of apps that have launched just since the pandemic, like Time Left, where they put you together at a dinner party with people that you don't know. There are so many apps out there. So I'm going to a Time Left dinner this Wednesday, by the way.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh, I want to hear about that. Have you been to one before?
It's going to be in an upcoming episode of How to Be Fine. So
you're reporting there?
Yep, that's right.
Okay,
so
great.
Everybody should, look into all these different apps out there if they're feeling like they want more friends. There's no shame in trying to meet new people. There's no shame in admitting, I want to meet new people. A lot of us want to meet new people now. It's a totally fine, totally normal thing. And so use those tools. And then also just use the resources that are, available to you in your neighborhood. go to the library, become a regular at a place. If you and your wife go out to coffee every single week, 3 times a week at the same place, before you know it, people will know who you are. And being a regular does a lot to ingratiate yourself, to make you somebody who other neighbors can approach and so on, to help you meet people. My husband and I are regulars at a few different spots in our neighborhood, and it's really opened up a whole world for us and made us, especially during the pandemic, it made us feel less lonely. We would sit outside in our snowsuits at our neighborhood bar because, COVID, we didn't want to go inside a bar, but we would sit outside and people would be like, oh, it's the snowsuit couple. And then all the neighbors would come out in their snowsuits too eventually. Eventually, we felt like we kind of started a snowsuit trend in our neighborhood.
That's really cute. That's really cute. Are you talking about one-piece snowsuits?
Mine is a 2-piece pink snowsuit. The snow pants are a giant bib.
Good. I just wanted to get a picture of this. This is great.
Yeah, but one of my neighbors, she had a big purple snowsuit that was a 1-piece, and she would sometimes come and join us. But yeah.
That's so fun.
But becoming a regular really can do a lot to help you meet people and make you feel more part of something else that's bigger than you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think about this guy who, I'm from Detroit, and I go out to a lot of like art openings and stuff, and I just started noticing this guy who's probably like in his 50s or 60s, maybe about 10 years ago. He just started showing up to all the openings with a camera, with like a nice camera, and taking pictures. And I soon learned, because I was seeing him everywhere, I introduced myself, and he just like loves photography. I don't think at the time he was making his living as a photographer, but he loves art and he loves photography. So he just thought, I'm going to make myself useful and go shoot these events. And like, maybe eventually that'll lead to something, but I'm just doing it because I love photography. And like 10 years later, I think he just put out a book about like all these artists in Detroit. And it was all like this really organic strategy to follow what he was interested in. And I think the byproduct of that was this amazing community. Now he knows like he's in community and relationship with like all these creative people in Detroit. And he would have never done that, I think, had he not just like made himself a little vulnerable and just started putting himself out there and just showing up to a place that he cares about.
I love that story. I want to be like that photographer.
Yeah, he's such an inspiration.
Yeah, so great. So letter writer, you can do this. You're going to meet friends. Follow your interests. Don't force yourself to play pickleball if you hate it. Do things that you truly enjoy.
Enough pickleball.
And don't be afraid to branch out beyond what your idea of what a friend should be. It's okay for them to be single. It's okay for them to be a different age. As a matter of fact, it might be even better for you than what you originally thought you were looking for.
Yeah.
All right. Those are all the questions we have for this week. Zak, this has been so much fun. Listeners, hopefully it's been helpful for you. Zak, can you remind our listeners of where they can find more of you?
Thanks for having me on, Kristen. I co-host Slate's parenting show, Care and Feeding. We come out every Monday and Thursday. And I also host a weekly show. It's called The Best Advice Show. It's very short. It's like 5 minutes, and each episode features a different person giving me and all of us one little actionable piece of advice. I would love for you to come on and maybe give me some advice too.
Yeah, I want to come on that.
Yeah, that's long overdue, Kristen.
And listeners, do you need help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? Write to us. Go to slate.com/Prudie. That's slate.com/PRUDIE. The Dear Prudence column publishes every Thursday.
If you'd like to hear your question answered on the podcast, we are looking for letter writers who would be comfortable recording their questions for the show. You can stay anonymous.
Dear Prudence is produced by Maura, Currie, with special thanks to Vic Whitley-Berry, Anuli, Ononye, and me, Kristen Meinzer, your guest Prudie for this episode. Editorial help from Paula de Verona. Daisy Rosario is senior supervising producer, and Alicia Montgomery is Slate's VP of audio. That's all for this episode, but join us on today's episode of Prudie Plus. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/Prudie Plus to get access wherever you listen. The episode is available for you to listen to right now. We'll see you there.
Come immerse yourself in The Time Is Always Now, Artists Reframe the Black Figure, an exhibition now on view through February 9th. Making its U.S. premiere at the Philadelphia Museum of Art, the exhibition explores how 28 artists perceive the world, pay homage to history, and find new ways of exalting Black life. Tickets are on sale now, and members get free and unlimited access to the exhibition. Let us help you plan your visit at philamuseum.org.